Indian stories, because of the massive, just the sheer number and the audiences and the consumption in India has allowed a lot of people to come in for co-productions.
Now, because of social media, OTT, I think some smaller films are still finding their way, but they are still not viable. It's still a huge struggle to make films, and somehow if you manage to make them, to actually, market and distribute.
I was dismissed in 2007 from my college because I made a homosexual short film. That created a lot of awareness about the LGBT people.
Very warm welcome to all our panelists. I'm very honored and thrilled to moderate this session with you at the Huddle. I want to begin by addressing this. There's been this wonderful creative electricity out of India on the world stage. Our films, they are breaking boundaries. They're being nominated and winning awards in forums where we were not that well represented in the last few decades. I want to ask all our panelists, what do you think has precipitated this change? Is the world looking at Indian cinema more keenly and according the kind of attention and that kind of respect that it deserves? Or is it the other way around, that we now present our films and program them better to the world and sort of project them in a way that it's accessible to everyone around the world?
I do feel like it's a bit of both. I mean, it's a more complicated response. I don't think that the fact that our films have not been received or accepted in certain kind of platforms makes it a reality that India has not produced great cinema or great narrative. And similarly, the fact that today they are being viewed and are being accepted is to do with many things, including, of course, a certain kind of finessing of presentation that fits within those parameters, because there are parameters, whether it is a Cannes, whether it is, they all have parameters. And there are other practical realities like co-production. It's a practical reality. When you have a co-production, right, then those things make it easier for you to have access. It's almost, necessary to have that. So I think the larger, simply put, I would say it's a combination of the fact that Indian stories, because of the massive, just the sheer number and the audiences and the consumption in India has allowed a lot of people to come in for co-productions. And that allows for different kind of storytelling and independent cinema, which otherwise gets very little scope from Indian initiatives, and just maybe because of the amount of money that we have allocated, and also just the ratio of the amount of money and the number of people wanting it. So now there's more of there's a wider range, right, of people being able to put their vision across.
Right, right.
So I think that would be my answer to that.
Right. And just to illustrate the point that Shahana has been making, her film Santosh, which is a very gritty Hindi language cop drama set in UP, was selected as the UK entry to the Oscars. And, it was picked over, let's say, a traditional British production. So that says something about, how globally Indian cinema has sort of entered the conversation in a way. Nandita, I'll ask you, you've traveled with your films right from the beginning of your career. They've been shown all over the world. I think after that parallel cinema waves sort of ended, and the new art house, or what the independent cinema as it emerged from the 90s or onwards, you've been one of the most steadfast figures that we've seen there. What do you make of this current moment about Indian films and how they are doing internationally? And do you agree with Shahana that co-productions have played a large part?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Building on what Shahana said. Firstly, like she also said, that, why does that have to be our benchmark? There have been many films from all over our country. Now, because of OTT, at least we are getting to know what we call regional films, as if they are any less than Hindi films. Today, we are able to see them. But at the time when I was acting, one of my Kannada directors was here, Kavita Lankesh. That film, I don't know where to find it, or the earlier films, Adur Gopalakrishnan's Malayalam film I've done a film with Mrinal Sen, his last film, one of the great masters, but it's not available anywhere. So I think, firstly, we neither have to keep festivals as the only benchmark, nor do we have to dumb it down. A lot of the times we say, oh, it's a festival film, these kind of labels that we put. Festival is a platform where filmmakers come from all over, showcase their films. I have learned a lot, met some amazing people, watched some great films that do not are not seen, but we don't have a body that would actually encourage and support our films. That's why the co-productions are needed, so that a French producer can hustle and find out, because their governments are giving films, like we used to have NFDC. Now there is really no replacement for NFDC. We can't expect a private producer to step in and see cinema as a form of art and do something for the love of cinema, and not just, and it's a fact that in our country economics interferes with art all the time. And because we have such a big mainstream cinema industry, the independent voices often get, sort of lost. Now, because of social media, OTT, I think some smaller films are still finding their way, but they are still not viable. It's still a huge struggle to make films, and somehow if you manage to make them, to actually, market and distribute. So I think we are still quite far away from that global arena, the way Korean cinema has gone in, or the way Iranian films have, or Mexican, considering we have such a long history of cinema, and we have films and literature and talent in so many parts of our country. I feel that we could do a lot more.
Right. Jio sir, I have to ask you this. Anybody who's watching and loving movies in the last 4-5 years, Malayalam cinema has really been at the center of it. Every year, I think we film critics, film writers keep, we're on our toes that what will come from that state, and we are so thrilled. And they're all very diverse narratives. It's not one kind of cinema that you watch when you watch a Malayalam film. Like there are very films in a very mainstream key as well. I've seen out of Malayalam cinema, as well as very nuanced and sensitive takes. Both of your films, The Great Indian Kitchen and Kadal the Core, translated across the nation. What do you make of this current creative renaissance, let's say, that's happening in Malayalam cinema?
Yeah, thank you for this event. And I believe that we have a wonderful audience in Kerala. We made Great Indian Kitchen as a festival kind of cinema. We can send some international film festival and then end up with us with that. So after the production, we are in the pandemic, so there is no film festivals. Then we approach some OTT platforms. They all are rejected. Then we find a small OTT platform through Google, and then we contact them. That's why Great Indian Kitchen came on OTT platform named Mainstream. And then rest of the things is a kind of viral. Actually, that was unexpected for me. The reception was great. So I believe that we have a good audience. So we have to respect that audience. And Great Indian Kitchen I made for myself. A kind of realization happened organically in my life. That's I turned to in a screenplay. That is Great Indian Kitchen. And then there is a lot of other cinema in Malayalam during after 2015. A lot of cinema is there that we got a pan-Indian reception from all over India. So we are trying to do something differently, including our actors too. For Kadal, if there is no Mammootty, there is no movie. So he also produced that movie. So that kind of support we will get from our all industry, including actors. So I believe these are the key factors for the Malayalam cinema.
Right. I have to ask this, one of the most acclaimed films of last year, All We Imagine Is Light, which broke a lot of ground, which won the Grand Prix at the Cannes. When it didn't make it as our Oscar selection, as an Oscar entry, the FFI president said that it looked like a European film set in India. And I want to know, as filmmakers, what do you make of that statement? Because when I see that movie, it's a story of migrant nurses from Kerala eking out a difficult existence in Mumbai, their internal lives, their aspirations, their dreams. The film looks at that in a very nuanced and a shaded and sensitive way. So what are we getting at? Is this the style and presentation, perhaps, of this film that people associated with a different kind of cinema? Because what is Indian presentation, again, because our cinema is so diverse, and, who gets to decide what an Indian film should look like? Yeah, who would like to take that? Yeah.
I think in these things, again, it's very hard to at the end of the day, we have to remember there is a body of people deciding this, and they are subjective human beings. However much objectivity they might wish to portray, at the end of the day, they are subjective people with their own ideas, biases, feelings. Also, we're looking at another layer, like you said, of the burden of saying this represents India, right? Now, India as it is diverse. As it is when we talk about the export of cinema from India outside, that's something that I feel, again, is something that gets limited to what people wish to be exported of India. So a film like Santosh, or even All We Imagine as Light fits into it, but you will never see a film that speaks of a different India, that speaks of an India where people are speaking English, which is also a reality. But you will never see that film going outside in that world because that's what they want to see of India. So there are all these complications in terms of what people want to present, what people want to accept. So when it comes to this kind of a selection, I don't think that it is possible for someone to really sift through all the variety of cinema that exists in that 1 year with all the different kind of nuanced topics and conversations that come up and decide what really represents India. I think that's just something that people say, but at the end of the day, it's just it's a calculation, it's a bias, it's a subjective opinion that a body of people have.
Right, right. Nandita, have you ever experienced this bias where, let's say, a film that you've been part of, which is very Indian in its telling, which is very Indian in its idiom, would be perceived as, like you said, a festival film or a film that's made for a European audience or a European gaze? Has that ever happened with you?
As in, is there a film that, sorry, say that again?
Yeah, I meant like, a film that you had done which you thought was a very Indian story, was telling a very strong Indian story, but the perception of it became more like, okay, this is a film that's made for a festival sort of a crowd.
So I think these labels we put it, honestly, I mean, this is, for me, it's not such a relevant question. Don't mind my saying that. Because it is, like Shahana also said, it's so subjective. Right? What is Indian? What is an Indian film? There is no one India, and that's the beauty of our country.
Right.
The fact we're trying to homogenize it is the problem, you know. And so far, there is this. I mean, so many different films it's like a jigsaw puzzle. The more Indian films you see, the more you understand that there is no one India. If we can take that with us, you know, that for me would be a greater achievement. So therefore,
Sure.
what we need to do is just first look at our own work. Forget about outside. We ourselves in this country, why is the independent cinema suffering? The space for that is shrinking despite OTT and social media and all of that. It's very tough today, and I'm sure Joe will say that too. And you know, I'm trying to make my next film, and it's very difficult to get funding for the kind of films that we want to make, even though we both have made, you know, some films and they have garnered a fair amount of response and accolades and all that. But the space for that is shrinking, and therefore I don't think it is about whether this is more Indian or that is more Indian. Of course, sometimes people in America, they say, oh, but you know, you speak really good English. They look at you with a lot of surprise. So now what are you going to do with ignorance? We know so much more about them than they know about us. So, but that is slowly changing. We are going beyond the snake charmers and yoga and masala and, you know,
Right.
those few words. It is going. But with every film that we do take it around, I think there is an element of surprise, a curiosity, an appreciation, and a greater understanding of the complexity that India is all about.
Right. Building on something you just said, so I've been watching a Apple TV series, comedy series called The Studio, which is about a studio executive who's bumbling around trying to make good cinema in that very restricted commercial Hollywood space. And the comedy comes from that he's batting for good cinema, but it's just not happening. In fact, he's damaging it. He's damaging the kind of projects he wants to back and the kind of directors he wants to back. I want to ask all three of my panelists, and I'll start with you, sir. What is the most comic or funny response that you've ever gotten from, let's say, a producer or a studio executive about an idea that you were trying to pitch?
For me, regarding Great Indian Kitchen, I already told it's rejected all major platforms. And then I expect that because I already told it's a kind of festival film. And right now I can say that there is no kind of festival film, no award film, commercial film, all the films. So our audience changed. And then we found a platform named Newstream, and we contact them. We have a kind of movie, could you help me to release? And they support us. And then simultaneously, we approach television channels for the release of Great Indian Kitchen. They also already rejected. They also rejected. And then movie got viral. And then Amazon approached us, and then they re-release it. And then I started, why they reject earlier? And then I found a funny thing that the rejection by men, all rejection happened through men. I'm not blaming them, why they are rejecting this. And then the recall, only because of women in our country, only because of women audience. Yeah, that's a kind of revolution. I'm not praising about my movie, but a kind of revolution from the audience. Yeah. And the woman audience, they prove that your decision was wrong, dear males, that kind of things. And yeah, thank you.
Right. Shahana, you have a story for us?
I don't think I can answer that question. As an actor, it's a very different.
So still, you must have been privy to conversations or
Let me
let's say
tell you,
feedback.
let me tell you, when a producer rejects an actor, they don't give a reason. You audition for something, you either get it or you don't. So I will never get to have that kind of a conversation, really.
I see. Nandita,
Well,
you have
very recently, for my next film, I hope he doesn't see this program, but this gentleman, I was telling him the story, he's a distributor, and then he heard me for a while. He said, she's a working woman, in the film, this character, the protagonist. She's like, can you make her a housewife? I said, why? So he said, no, because in Great Indian Kitchen and in Thappad, they are both housewives. So at the end, when they walk out and drive off, there are a lot of claps. So that's why you should make her a housewife. I said, no, she doesn't have to. My character is a working woman like many of us. So I mean, such ridiculous things people can say. I remember one producer, when I made Zvigato, it was in Odisha. And I said, I'm going to have Odia in it. He's like, you're going to have Odia in it? Nobody even knows what Odissan sounds like. They don't know what Odia, so what Odissans sounds like, that there's no such word. So, so I said, well, now they'll know. We have learned Punjabi and stuff like that from films. So they said, but can you make them speak Bengali? So I said, what? Well, I was like, it doesn't matter. People won't know. But at least Bengali is a little more familiar.
There you go.
So we have many interesting such stories
Right.
of what producers tell you to do.
Right. When streaming arrived in India, there was a lot of cautious optimism that this will enable a lot of filmmakers who couldn't tell their stories in the traditional mainstream key. And a lot of that cinema, a lot of that long form series did happen in India, but now it seems like the balance of power has shifted, where even streaming has made it very difficult to get projects off the ground. I talked to independent filmmakers, people who are trying to make really path-breaking series, and the kind of feedback that they get, a lot of algorithm has come into that. Yeah, so I want to know your experiences with, what has been your experiences with streaming, and what do you think, where does it stand? Is it really an enabler that it came as a promise of? Do you have something to say about this? About streaming right now, and is it really there for the kind of cinema that you represent?
Yeah, actually right now the streaming platforms and the box office both are same. Right now their basics is choosing a movie is stardom. Yeah. Yeah. Then I don't know how can we crack it because in Kerala there is lot of funders, investors from Bollywood cinemas or outside India. But right now they are all they are not happy with the business. So this is May, only 4 or 5 Malayalam films came on the major OTT platforms. But we made almost 80s movies almost released. Yeah, yeah. So the industry is total loss. So I don't know, me also in the crisis of selling our own movies.
I think there are different, I mean, I agree with what you said. I think it's become a situation where it came with a certain intention of course, enabling, or people thought it did. One can't say what it came in with. I don't know what the people came in with as an idea, but one thought that it, just by virtue of opening up quantity of work, it allowed for different kinds of narratives to come in. And then once they did take that chance and they did well, you expected that now there would be a plethora of that. But what ended up happening is at some point, you know, my guess is that funds ultimately become a thing. See, OTT is not a ticket-based thing. Yeah. It's a subscription-based thing. So it becomes very, it's not just the success of one show that determines it going into another season. It's determined by how many people are subscribing to your platform at that time, and what are the kind of material and subjects that bring them in. So what's again ended up happening is now again in that OTT space also you're looking at how many followers does this one have, how viable is it. No, nowadays, you know, thriller is working, so we'll do thriller. But you have to have foresight. If thriller's been working for the last 2 years, by the time your project comes out, a new trend will come. You can't be silly enough to say that, no, we'll keep doing thriller till 7 thrillers flop and then we'll think of the next new thing. You have to have some sort of foresight, which I don't see happening. The only other thing that I see that ends up working, which is what happened with Jeo Baby's film or many other filmmakers and friends that I know, you make your film independently, which you struggle and make because it's not at all easy, where funding, I mean, filmmaking is not a cheap medium or a cheap art form. It requires a certain kind of, you know, basic capital. But people who do manage to somehow independently make it, then come and sell the final product, because A, it gave them the freedom to make it the way they want to, with the vision that they had, and B, once you have a final product in place and not something that people who don't have creativity have to imagine and think about, then maybe they can buy it and acquire it, as they say, and put it out there. But right now, the market is saturated. There are too many platforms, there's too much material, and there's not enough time to see stuff, and unless, most of the times people don't even know a film is out because it requires marketing, which is again another additional cost. So it's not very well thought out. I think things just kind of rolled out, and now, as it always happens, when you hit a crisis, the crisis is always money related, then you will find money related solutions. And money related solutions are always thought of in short-sighted ways, where you're thinking of, oh, okay, let's just get big stars, let's just get eyeballs, that's what's going to give the money rolling, and then maybe we can think about doing things creatively and differently, which never happens.
Right. Yanan.
Yeah, no, just to add to that, and it's true that for every, every independent film that makes it, like I think Jeo Baby also mentioned, that there are many others who still find it difficult to get it onto the platform. So for every independent film that you see and you say, wow, but this one did come onto the OTT, you know, there are 100 others who haven't been able to make it. Or for every film that gets made, there are 100 scripts lying around with no takers. So it is a struggle, and he was right when you said that, you know, theatre and OTT are actually not too different. The parameters remain the same, like Shahana was saying, big actors and all of that. Also, earlier independent cinema meant that you could, you know, you didn't have to define it. Adur Gopalakrishnan film was different from an Aravindan's film, both may be from Kerala, but you know, there were, so, you know, Ritwik Ghatak was different from a Satyajit Ray, and both were great masters in their own right. That range is decreasing, even in the so-called independent cinema, because of these market forces, thriller and, you know, certain kind of rom-com, or, you know, this fast-paced films. Even a lot of Malayalam films, you will know better, are becoming more like Korean films. They are experimenting with the form, not as much the stories and the content. So in the first 10 minutes, all producers are saying, but where's the drama? Where's the drama? There's no space for a slow-burning, life-like film. Now, after seeing Adolescence, everyone is saying, wow, you know, that's so amazing. But Adolescence is a very slow-burning film. It's not one of your racy, pacey, whatever films that these people, and I think there was a lot of lashing out on that. Won't name the people, but, you know, where directors said that, would something like this ever be produced in India? Would there be takers for a series like this? So I think we have the same and some additional you know, forces and burdens and hurdles that we have to cross to make independent films. I really wish there would be a body, I don't know if it can be part of some kind of a initiative that could really support independent filmmakers to make and to take them to what you're saying, the global stage or to these OTT platforms?
Right. You know, all of you have done such vast work, and as I was preparing to moderate this session, I was watching your films and I was trying to find a through line. And it's very difficult because, you know, this Firak and this Vigar, even Nandita's own filmography is so diverse as an actor, as a director. But what I did find was that all of these films are wonderfully intersectional. And I don't want to use that term academically, but what I mean by that is, in India, you can't make a film about one issue and not look at the other thing. You can't make a film about gender and not look at class. You can't look at class and not look at religion. You can't look at, you know, all these aspects are almost comically banged up together. In Nandita's films, there's a funny sequence where a delivery rider played by Kapil Sharma, he lands up in a temple. And he goes there because this other writer who's Muslim is afraid that maybe I shouldn't go inside. So he asks him to go inside. And there's an NRI family doing a puja. And they want to drink Coke, so they have ordered Coke there. And then they give him a tip and they tell him that, will you dispose this off? Because, you know, we can't dispose this in temple grounds. And
Let them watch it on Amazon. You're telling the whole story.
No, I kept going because the irony just kept coming one after the other. And, you know, it's a lovely cross-section of how Indian society is and what a rich repository it becomes then for drama, for storytelling. Has this always been your approaches, let's say as actors, building characters and also when writing, and to sort of reflect it from all angles, to have almost a multi-dimensional way of looking at, let's say, gender and relationships, and not to isolate these issues, but to show it in the complexity that they exist in?
Because you talked about Zvigato, I think you almost can't not see the intersectionality. It's a very organic thing. How do you talk about gender? How do you talk about a food delivery rider and his family? Let's say it's about the gig economy. But the gig economy, this person, his life exists within that same society where there are gender dynamics. So his relationship with his wife, who's probably been a housewife but wants to do something outside, what are the egos that get triggered? You know, it's within that patriarchal system. Or the religious, the incident that you talk about, there is religious disparity. There is a child who comes from a certain caste and, you know, comes to the kachrawala. And these are the realities. So I don't think it is so wanting to make it intersectional or, you know, seeing it at a theoretical level. But I think if you're true to your context, automatically these different aspects, and because we are full of so many disparities and, you know, contradictions and all of that just exist in our society in a way that we are almost blind to it. You know, they're just kind of invisible, but they're all hidden actually in plain sight, but they're all there. Right. So I think it is any good film or any film that sincerely and honestly wants to be honest to their own context is bound to touch upon all these aspects of our society, whatever subject that may be their core theme.
Right. Jose, I'll say the same of, let's say, both your films, but especially Kadal, the core, you know, starring Mammootty, where at the center of it, the drama is about, you know, a wife who wants to divorce her husband. But then we see so many aspects of society around it. There's politics, there's religion, there's sexuality, and all of this, it all comes together in a beautiful scene in the rain, right in the middle of the film, you know, where someone is at a political rally and it just starts raining. And such a calming sort of a way to comment on how complex the world is and has a bit of repose from that, from just the rain. Talk to me about, you know, how you wrote that film and how you approached both the characters, because the story of Jyotika's character is as central to that story as Mammootty's character.
Yeah, I believe that it's because of a realization. I already told. And the Kadal written by Arthur Sukumaran and Paulson, that's not my story. Why I made Kadal? Because I have a lot of information about the community. I was dismissed in 2007 from my college because I made a homosexual short film.
Right.
So that created a lot of awareness about the LGBT people. The short film support them. That's why I dismissed her from my college. Then I got a lot of friends from the community. Then I know the pain of they are facing their daily life and their inner mind. I know some part of their pain, not fully. So that's why I made Kadal. So, my reason is I know the situation. I feel the realization of human beings. That's I translated to the cinema. That's all.
Right.
Thank you.
Uh, Shahana, I must ask, one of the best and the most harrowing films I saw out of India was Santosh, and one of your fieriest performances. But I think only a privileged few of us have actually seen the film in India because it played at festivals. The censor board needed a lot of changes that your director was not comfortable with, so an India release was stalled. How did that make you feel? And also, the film tells a story that is so uniquely Indian, and to have a situation where that can't be showed to Indians, I feel it kind of insults the audience and insults their lives and their complexities that they cannot take this. I think can you speak about that?
I mean, the film, right at the script level, I think the thing that drew me to it was the fact that, as just in line with what we were talking about, that the cross-sectionality of it, that there is a sense of seeing something. I think when you do anything that's observational, you will always have nuance to it. And those nuances sometimes get missed when people are more focused on a linear narrative.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think that's what drew me to it, because though there was a narrative that was kind of progressing linearly, but it was more about the inner worlds and inner, reality of the characters. So anyway, a film like that, of course, it's strange because you give a script to the censor board before it's filmed, and that the scripts, the two renditions of the scripts were okayed by the board, and then the filming happens. But for various reasons, which one can only speculate about what the reasons really are, people feel that this film requires cuts, and which become kind of, it's obvious that those kind of cuts will not be adhered to. It cannot be adhered to. So it's sad that a film like that can't be seen, but I think what has helped me feel in the process of having the film being shown in film festivals in India, and its response from audiences and critics in different festivals outside of India, that it's nice to be able to make a film, again, connecting to what point we made earlier, that is appreciated in the same way by Indian audiences and audiences outside of India, where the storytelling and the human aspect and the larger socio-economic aspect remains universal somehow. The socio-economic, socio-political aspect remains universal and is understood and felt by people that are watching it. And what has amazed me even more is that even I would operate from a bias thinking, festival film, maybe Aam Janta or the larger audience would not like to watch a film like this. It would bore them, it wouldn't interest them. And now, weirdly enough, thanks to the buzz of the film not coming out, people have pirated it and watched it, and I constantly get messages from people that I would not expect to find the film, watch the film, make the effort to then message the actor and tell them that they love the film. And that just made me realize, like in the conversations that even Jeo had, the audiences want to watch things, they can connect, they're intelligent enough, you do not have to spell everything out, and neither do you have to give them only one kind of cinema. Nobody is saying make just realistic cinema or make just, but why do we have to make that distinction? And you realize how much it seeps into yourself, where even I will think that, this is a niche film. It's not. If that film had come out, I'm sure it would have, across OTT and theatrical, it would have had a good response. So that's the only thing that makes me sad, that somebody gets to decide whether a film should come out or not. I was just saying this earlier, in my personal opinion, censorship is there for it to give you a rating. It's either, PG or this or A, but you cannot be telling people what to say and what not to say. In a world that we live in today, where there is no censorship anywhere, and even if there is, you will always find means. I mean, this is the world we live in, you will always find means to go and do what you need to do, express what you need to. So the best thing to do is to be able to let everybody have the space to express what they want, and then let people choose to engage with it or not, depending on their level of interest or not. And as a welfare state, you can put restrictions in terms of putting whether it's an adult film, whether it's appropriate for children or not. That's about it. But beyond that, to implement censorship in a way that it prevents your storytelling is something that I am opposed to.
Great. At this point, I'll open the floor up for questions. Yeah. A mic will come to you. The gentleman over there. Yeah, please introduce yourself and who the question is for.
We are talking about the global stage, and obviously it means a global appreciation of the Indian film and establishing an Indian film brand. So my question is to Nandita Das, that as a filmmaker, how will you make a film which can crack the Oscar or the Cannes Film Festival Award, and in the process make us all proud by this? Include the right content, and what else can you do to make sure that this happens?
I wouldn't know. I don't think any maker really makes it like Jeo Baby said. You first make the film for yourself because you are itching to share something, to tell something. It could be your dilemma, it could be your guilt, it could be your anger about something, frustration, happiness. So you first make it for yourself and then you want to share it, you want to communicate. Whether Oscar likes it or not, or the Academy or Cannes, I've been on many juries as well. It's a very subjective thing. There are 9 of us deciding the fate of some films. We come with our own respective biases and prejudices. However, we may think that we are being objective. We all come with our set of experiences and our upbringings, our rights and wrongs, our exposures. So I don't think we need to worry about whether, in fact, there was once in the Academy, I forget, a couple of years ago, the MC, the person who was conducting the Academy event, listed out all the films and filmmakers that did not ever get an Oscar. You remember there was this one time, and there were huge names and amazing films and really big filmmakers. So that an award is in fact, the sort of low down in the accolades. In our country, the awards itself are quite suspect. That's a whole different matter. But I don't think any of us really want to make it for that. If you want to be really proud of our films, we would urge you to just watch more independent films. And if you like it, then just be happy and tell 10 other people.
So many countries have gone through the censorship ordeal, and it is in the nature of state to control free speech. But many of the countries that have come out of it have done so through the lobbying, advocacy, and pressure that the film fraternity themselves have exerted on state to pull back from censorship and move it to rating. That happens in the US, that happens in many places. Has Indian cinema and the people of Indian cinema within the fraternity banded together and ever asked for this, and how many times, and what has been the reaction, and is there a plan to make this happen? Because the audience are not idiots. We don't need a paternal state. We would love to watch and decide for ourselves.
There was actually, Shyam Benegal headed a committee that was and I was part of that committee, which was trying to propose the rating system that Shahana was talking about, which is what a sane, evolving, progressive society must do, especially in a day and age where internet anyway is open for all. So you have to trust the audience, but that committee they never implemented it, and we still have, it's so arbitrary. As a director, I'm sure we've gone to these 5, 6 people who decide on the fate of our films, and they come up with so many absurd things which completely defies your intelligence, and they're really undermining the audience, they're undermining the filmmakers, and it's a real struggle. If we want to be a mature society, I think we need to trust the audience and definitely change the way the censor board functions. But in our country, there are now 3 kinds of censorship, as we know. Like one is the official body, then many of us are having to self-censor because of whatever the climate is, or you don't know whether something will work or not. And then there are some custodians of self-proclaimed custodians of culture who also are censoring. So we are, I mean, free speech is something which is, I think, fundamental for any form of art or any form of literature or any form of expression to thrive or to even survive now.
Just to add to the answer is that there are people who have, you can challenge a decision made by the board in court, in the High Court, and people have done that and have had success as well. So that is one means that still remains, but it is again a costly mean, time-consuming mean, and something that not everybody has the resources and the luxury to avail of. So.
Also, the FCAT's gone. The
that is gone, which was a fast-track system, which has been removed. So that makes it, even tougher to do that.
Hi, my name is Siri.
Can I speak?
My question is to Jeo sir. The Great Indian Kitchen was deeply rooted, yet it could impact audience globally. What do you think stories that are so local can touch the audience? What are your narratives that connect people across the world?
Hello, anything done purposefully. Because I was stuck in my own kitchen. Yeah. Then only after my 33 or 34, then I'm thinking about the woman in my own houses. So that's the reason, that way I told a kind of realization. I realized the things, how horrible my Amma lived in my own house with my father, also my partner. So in that movie, the husband character, that came from me. So that is a kind of realization. I made this movie as a filmmaker, this is for me. I'm not thinking about the audience, not thinking about the money. Even I had not told the story to any producer. We produced it, me and with my friends, as we already told, this is an independent kind of cinema. So I don't know why women like it. I don't know. I convert all my pain to the Nimisha Sajan's character, female protagonist. It's me. I wake up in the early morning, 6:30, and then I felt like I'm in jail. I can't read a book, even very interesting movie. I will sleep within 5 or 10 minutes. That's much I struggled. So I converted my pain to my art. Thank you.
Mr. Endram has been intending to ask a question. We'll get to him. Yeah, can you give him a microphone, please, Mr. Endram? Right in the first row, please. Can you just check if that's working?
Hello?
Yeah, it's working.
Relating to censorship and free speech. Financial Times has just published the latest military briefing. India and Pakistan test red lines of nuclear rivalry. Now, ask Nandita first, and others may want to comment. Are there red lines in filmmaking that you either tested or haven't tested? Know that you shouldn't be testing it. And what are these red lines, the few that may exist in your kind of approach to filmmaking?
Again and my God, they are always being tested. Right from my first film as an actor, which was Fire, and as a filmmaker was Firak, both with the F words, not intended. But yeah, in both it was, I think, tested. But times have changed. Now I think, that's why I said even self-censorship. Like, do we even attempt to tell these stories? You know, there is safe playing, that it's like an unsaid rule. Nobody's telling you directly, but you're kind of creating those red lines for yourself, which is in some sense the most dangerous thing. Because that's not even visible. You're not even, you're sort of killing your voice almost voluntarily. So yeah, there are many topics. I mean, earlier if you saw, there was no really art and commercial, and how would you say a Gurudutt film or a Bimal Roy film? There the protagonists were very connected to the real world. They had real world issues. There was still a song and a dance and a lovely music and romance. But there were real situations, there were real people, there were real issues that they dealt with. Or a Mahanagar by Satyajit Ray. You know, these were not, you really couldn't label it. Today, maybe the commercial and like the gentleman there said, like RRR and some other bigger films, Pushpa, and the ones that are really making money are, and they should be made. I mean, there is an audience for that, and why not? But there is that, but our range is also kind of shrinking. The variety of films is not really reflective of the variety of stories that actually exist in society. So these red lines right now are far more dangerous. We can still live without not making films for a while, but what's going on is definitely scarier.
There's room for one more question. Yes, please. I know you wanted to ask that question, ma'am. Yeah, just one more.
Just 1 second. Shahana, would you like to add a bit to Enram's question?
Yes, I mean, I agree that the red line at this point is more self-censorship, not just by the filmmakers, but also by the OTT platforms, which don't technically require censorship, but they end up censoring because they fear that there will be backlash. And the backlash will affect their administrative heads, so there is a kind of self-censoring that's happening everywhere. But then on the counter side of it, the people, like she said, when people do actually express themselves, make choices to not from a space of being defiant, but from a place of being authentic, are able to actually express themselves, one is pleasantly surprised to see that the response from the audience is actually welcoming. Yes, of course, it can create some sort of a debate, but that's the point of art. It's not meant to be homogenizing in its experience. It is meant to create conversation. It's meant to create dialogue, and it's meant to have subjectively, differing opinions. So I feel like we're at this weird point where people are ending up blocking themselves, but then when something comes through, it gives you hope that at least at the level of receptivity from the people that you're making it from the audiences, there is scope and hope. Because audiences are a lot more open, given the range of things that they watch today. There's a lot more receptivity in the audience.
Yeah, one final question from anywhere.
May I please ask the question? Yeah? All right. Hi, my name is Bhumika. I am from Bangalore, and wonderful discussion. I can actually see my past in the discussions that we've had. When Fire came out, I was a teenager, and now in my life, the Great Indian Kitchen really resonates with me as a working woman. A few comments I would like to hear your responses on. I think what you said, Nandita, about working woman is actually very interesting, because we never hear anyone say working man. So I think that's excellent, the way that you've portrayed this in your films. And the question of censorship, I think, doesn't exist anymore, because my 6-year-old can watch Animal at home on the OTT, and there's no one stopping him. So I wanted to understand, with respect to the maturity of the audience, because I feel there are only two kinds of films. One that you should watch, and one that you want to watch. And I think movies like Animal and even Arjun Reddy are movies which do well because people like the sensationalism. But I'm not too sure whether they are movies which should be self-centered before they are released. So I just wanted to know what you think, because the films that you have created are of a very different kind of a tone and tenor. So I would just like to hear what you have to say about that. Thank you.
You said many things. One is because we say working women because we don't say homemaker for men. When they start doing that, we'll stop saying working women, because women are working all the time anyway, whether at home or outside. In terms of what you said, I've lost the train of thought though. Sorry, just...
The censorship part, I mean, if somebody wants to watch a particular genre of film,
I
even a young kid can do that, yeah.
No, just...
Yeah. Also, like, it's a bit skewed in the sense that she means that a 6-year-old child can flip open.
But that we already talked about, that, the censorship is... was there a question you wanted to...
Was that more a comment from your side, or was that a question from your side?
Right,
Maturity of
maturity of audiences, yeah. I mean, there are, who said, do you remember a great filmmaker said that they're completely two different views. One is that never undermine your audience. They are smarter than you think. And there is another view, and they're both great filmmakers who say the audience is stupid. Never think about them when you make a film. So, you know, and both exist. Sometimes a film, and yes, I wanted to also say that I don't think that we should watch and we want to watch are always different. Because everybody, I may not actually want to watch Animal, it's possible, right? Like some people think, why would you not want to watch XYZ? Because they're so popular and you know, you're just wanting to see serious thing and boring. It's not that at all. For something to be regressive is very bothering for me. It's not something, it doesn't give me pleasure. It doesn't entertain me, it doesn't engage me. So I think as many people, that many views on films. So the should and want, I don't think necessarily are that different. Audiences are mature or not, again, we are not a homogeneous body, but we want to be mature. Collectively, do we want to be mature? If we want to be a mature society, if we want to be a mature audience, for that, how do we become mature? Only when you see something different. It's like your food, your palate. If you've only eaten one thing, of course, that's the only thing you know and you feel that's the best. You have to try out other things to know. But it's a chicken and egg situation. You see, the producers are saying, this is what the audience wants. What can we do? The audience says, this is what is rolled out to us, so what do we do? So who's going to break it? Only if each one of us takes the onus of it. The audience needs to take some responsibility. We as filmmakers need to take some responsibility. The producers need to, the distributors. We are all sort of tied into each other. So I don't know what the answer is, that are we a mature audience or not? You know, when we only see it in retrospect. When a good film does well, we say, see, this film was really appreciated, right? Like Santosh. Then when a bad film does really well, we say, well, you know, audiences really know no better. So, yeah, we kind of change our stance depending on what it is.
Well, this has certainly been a mature audience. Thank you so much for attending our session. And
thank you.
Thank you to our lovely panelists for their thoughts and insights into the current state of Indian cinema.